In the studio here, good morning, is the one and only Mike Arcuri. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Thanks
How are you this
for
morning?
coming in. Mike is running for Oneida County Court Judge, and you've got quite a lineup of experience. We were just talking a little politics. I'd like to start, if you don't mind, with a little congressional talk. And when you were there, was it anything like this? I mean, it was divided, but this is divided. We are divided right now.
It's the nature of our, it's historically the nature of our system, the two-party system.
Yeah.
It's always been like that. I think one of the problems, now, is there's this notion on both sides of the aisle that if nothing gets done, they will be unhappy with the party that's in power. So there's almost a motivation to have gridlock for the party that's out of power. So we've lost all of the motivation to work together, because then the party who's out of power doesn't have any reason to point their finger at the party who's in power. So I think that's one of the problems. And again, both sides of the aisle.
We've never seen it any crazier than this, although the country has. One of our questions this morning for Habaika's Free Money was, how did Alexander Hamilton die? Well, it was a duel, and he was shot by the vice president.
Right.
So,
That's funny.
And that vice president didn't go on to be, and Thomas Jefferson's second term did not go on to be vice president.
And don't forget Andrew Jackson.
Andrew Jackson.
One of the worst things ever that they said about his wife. So this isn't anything that's new to us, but it is
modern time. This is a new low,
and we have TV. We have the media and the internet that really helps us to enhance all of the bad stories.
Getting back to your free money question of the day today, if you'll remember, there was a Got Milk commercial. I knew the answer to that question. Do you remember that? The guy's got like a cupcake in his mouth, and he's on the phone answering a trivia question, like with the radio station. He's like, and he can't say it because he doesn't have any milk. I remember, and when you asked that question, I'm like, I think that's that question.
Yeah.
It was,
yeah. And instantly the caller knew it. So whether it was a commercial or he's a good historian, either way, you knew the answer. So, all right, let's talk. You're running for Oneida County Court Judge, and why? What has inspired you to run for the position?
I've been an attorney for over 30 years, and everything about, what I've done, I've been a career attorney. So everything about what I've done has been about the law. In Congress, I wrote the law. As a prosecutor, I prosecuted the law. I've defended the law for 14 years, defended people, children in family court. And I act as an administrative law judge now for the state of New York. So I've really done sort of all aspects of the law. And I feel that with my background and my balance that I have both as a defense attorney and a prosecutor, they would be ideal for a county court judge. And frankly, I miss working in the criminal justice system to the extent that I did as DA.
Yeah. And for those that are wondering, there are many judicial positions out there. What cases does the county court judge see?
Actually, county court judge, few people know this, but they do a small amount of civil. So anything that's in city court, village court, town court that's appealable, you bring a small claims action and then you want to appeal it, you actually appeal that to the county court judge. That's probably only 5, maybe 10% of what they do. It's a very small percentage. The vast majority of what they do are felony trials. So that is cases that have gone into the grand jury, have been indicted. There's been an indicted handed down by the grand jury, or what we call an SCI, a Superior Court Information, where there's an agreement between the district attorney's office and the defendant, and those cases come before the judge. But they're all felony level cases.
And for you, when it comes to, I know one of the things you talk about is experience, and you've been the prosecutor, you've been the family attorney, you've been the district attorney, and you've been a congressman. Which position gives you the most knowledge for this judicial spot, or is it a combination of all of them?
Clearly district attorney does. Here's the thing. This is why you see so many judges who are criminal, county court judges who are either DAs or first assistant DAs, because when you're DA, you make the really tough decisions. There's an old saying among DAs, and that is DAs don't make all the decisions, they make the tough decisions, because basically the easier decisions are made by the assistant DAs. When it's a tough decision, it's the DA that makes it. When it's a decision, for instance, whether or not to allow someone, we had a case with Diane Galogli. She killed her child. I had to make a decision whether or not to go to trial with that, or to say that she was insane at the time that it happened. It's the DA that has to make that decision. When we had the death penalty, the DA had to make. And I have to tell you, I've made a lot of decisions in my years. There is absolutely no decision as tough as deciding whether or not to seek the death penalty,
Yeah.
whether you seek it or not, because there are, there's mitigators to consider, there's the law to consider, there's the family of the victim to consider. So the DAs make those really tough decisions, and that's what county court judges do. So that's why I think that being DA itself prepares you best for the role of judge.
As a judge, how do you walk in? It's always really important that you select a jury that has not been influenced by anything, the media in particular. But you as a judge, when you sit down in that chair, you've probably seen all the media. You know the backstory. You know these stories. How do you not let your personal opinion get in the way of being fair and really following the letter of the law?
Well, I mean, theoretically, the rules for a judge are that if you feel that you can't be fair for whatever reason, either you know one of the parties, maybe you're related, you have a relationship in a small county like ours, that could happen. You have to disqualify yourself. So there's a mechanism in place for that. But, I've tried so many cases that I have a lot of experience in terms of how you get that out of the jury. So, a good judge will sit there and he voir dirs the jury even before the lawyers do, So he'll ask questions to the jury. Hey, do you think the fact that you know this police officer or you respect this police officer will give him a higher credibility with you than another person would? So those are the questions that the judge has to, and the judge has to feel comfortable, and the judge can remove them for cause, or an attorney can remove them on what we call a preemptory objection if they just don't like it. So all of those things come into play when you're picking a jury, and if you can't get a jury in your county, the defense attorney will make a motion to move it to another venue.
So you've been a prosecutor, and I'm going to ask your opponent the same question. Have you ever come out of a case and said, "Boy, we just did not get a fair shake"? And have you learned? If so, I'd love you to name names, but you probably won't. But if so, have you learned from that?
Yeah, well, there have been times when our office has lost a case when I was DA, and there's a standard answer that you give, and it's what you believe. It's I'm not exactly sure I agree with the verdict of the jury. However, I accept it because that's part of our system, and that's the way we have jeopardy. Jeopardy now applies, and this person can walk away. Whether or not the right thing happened, that remains to be seen. Only God knows that.
Right.
But from our perspective, I don't agree with it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gone forward with it. But I accept it, and we'll move on.
So why should the people? We're 2 weeks from Tuesday. Why should the people? I'd like to say pull your lever, but
they don't do. They don't even do that.
Fill the bubble.
So, why should they fill your bubble?
Literally, they don't do it.
It doesn't have the same oomph to it when
maybe
you say,
figuratively, but not literally anymore, right?
So why should they vote for it?
I bring to the bench. I would bring to the bench a balance that I think is unique in that I've not only been the longest sitting district attorney in Oneida County, I served for 13 years, but I've been in private practice for 14 years. I've tried cases as a defense attorney. I've tried cases in federal court. I've prosecuted 8 murder cases. I don't know of any DA that's in Oneida County that's actually prosecuted that many murders. I mean, I happen to like it. So when I was in the DA's office, I not only oversaw the 100,000 cases that we handled when I was DA, but I tried a good number of them myself. And I bring that kind of balance. I've also been a judge, so I've actually had hearings where lawyers come in, they make objections, they make motions, I rule on it, I swear in witnesses, hear testimony. I do that in Utica, Rochester, Syracuse, Binghamton, throughout central New York.
Yeah.
So I think I bring a unique sort of holistic experience to the bench if I'm fortunate enough to be elected. And I think that's what you want. I mean, you want to know that everybody who comes before the judge has equal respect, has an equal position, and you want someone, I think, that has been on both sides of the of each issue.
I have Mike on the line wants to ask a question, and the topic is about pistol licensing. Mike, you're on with Mike Arcuri.
Yeah, good morning. The possibility of becoming the pistol licensing officer, and I'd just like to know where you stand on the Second Amendment and the concept of the SAFE Act.
Okay. It's difficult for me to give my opinion on the SAFE Act just based upon
judicial, and I have to say you're in a tough position running for judge because the limits are very, very, very particular.
But let me, I can't really tell you what I'm going to do, but let me tell you what I've done, and perhaps it'll give you some sort of background in terms of where I stand on issues. I myself have a carry-all pistol permit. I've had it for some time, and I feel that I'm safe, I abide by the law, and I should have a right to carry it. That's my personal feeling with respect to me. I can tell you that when I was in Congress, I was endorsed by the National Rifle Association because my view on issues. And my view as a DA was simply this. Look, I know sometimes that legislation gets passed to try to prevent a problem, but sometimes legislation gets passed because there is no solution to a problem and it's not needed. As DA, there was never a time that we had a gun case in front of us that we did not have enough laws on the books to adequately and properly prosecute that case. So in terms of having more laws, well, I think there's more than enough laws on the books with respect to that aspect. So I can't tell you what I'm going to do or where I'm going to stand, but I can tell you that I have been, endorsed by the NRA, not for judge, but for Congress because of my view with respect to gun issues, and I have a carry-all permit.
All right. I hope that answers your question, Mike.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
All right. And when we talk about, and I want to just be clear, running for judge, you and your opponent, anybody running for judge, there are very strong restrictions on campaigning and what you can talk about. And once you're a judge, you really can't cite on political issues at all.
Right. Correct.
So, that's basically the rules and regulations of being a judge.
And the rules are a little bit gray. So that you're not supposed to comment on legislation, but,
I was going to say, your answer was rather profound.
Well, he was talking about his personal history right there.
Know.
I think you might have sent the message in between the lines.
Well, you can do that. I can tell you what my history is. I can't tell you what my position is or what my position is going to be.
Sure.
And you really can't get into the presidential race. And
you know what? It's the best part of running for judge.
Jim Zecca can ask you all day long, and you can't say a word.
When I go knocking on doors, I really want to get a shirt that says, "I promise I won't tell you who I'm voting for if you promise not to tell me who you're voting for."
Mike Arcuri, as always, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Best of luck. A week from, and I know there's a debate coming up here. The date on the debate is
25th.
Next Wednesday?
Next Wednesday.
Tuesday.
And
it's the 25th.
25th.
Correct.
Got it. And be looking for that. And thanks so much for coming in.